Hi, I'm Karen. Grab your coffee and count on me to ask the circularity questions everyone is thinking but never says out loud.
And I'm Pau, and we will be your host of the Circular Coffee Club podcast. This is our second episode, and today we are diving into something we see all the time. People think circularity is a small part of Schneider Electric, when actually it's everywhere.
Exactly. Circularity isn't just a list of offers. It's a mindset that shows up in so many things we already do. When we repair a product, we are extending its life. When we provide spare parts, we are avoiding a full replacement. When we modernize equipment, we are making the most of what already exists instead of starting from scratch.
And that's the point of today's episode. Circularity might sound abstract, but in reality, it happens in multiple touchpoints across the customer journey.
So instead of going offer by offer, we're exploring the bigger picture, how all these pieces connect to create a circular ecosystem, and why most people only see the tip of the iceberg.
We are joined today with Victor and Ludovic. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. Nice to have you here. So let's go to our first warm-up question. So what's an offer that we have in circularity offer, I would say, in Schneider, that people don't really get it and see as a circular offer in general?
I would say it's a repair offer. So repair, it's a circular offer that people don't think as a circular offer. Because normally we have to take care of the natural need of the life extension of the product when we repair the product, but also other factor that makes sense when we repair, and it's a big circular approach, is the properly disposal. So people don't think about the disposal of the spare parts that we are replacing, or where we are disposing those parts, or if we are recycling the subparts or reusing those subparts. So that's one important thing that people don't normally take care of when they think about circularity.
Yes, and maybe to Victor, I will associate definitely the spare part to repair. A spare part is often seen as after-sale offer. But finally, if you think about it, it's definitely contributing to use longer. So it means that you avoid to buy a new one, and then you avoid manufacturing, transporting, and installing. And maybe where circularity is really doing its magic is when you have the take-back and refurbishment capabilities. So in this case, you are really able to regenerate spare part beyond the end of services, end of the commercialization, and I think we will speak about life cycle afterwards. So,
Yeah, you're right, Ludovic. I think spare parts is the more underestimated offer that we have. Okay, so but in any case, what part of our circular story do you think it's easier for our customers to understand?
it's a very good question. I would say modernization, but maybe with the EcoFit solution. So it means the solution that we have, that you are not changing everything. You are keeping the frame, wire, and structure. And it's like a swap solution. So it means that the value is obvious, because in this case, it's less downtime, less cost, and you extended the life of your product. And if at the top of it, you add a take back to put this product at the whole product, to put the product in the best circular loop, you add as well the sustainability value of this. So this is my answer.
That's really interesting. Sorry.
So one thing that customers normally ask when we do this type of modernization is what happens with the parts or with the replaced products that we are replacing, if entire product, or if we are replacing some parts, what happened with those? So this is something that we have to explain well. So customers, they're expecting transparency from us in terms of what happens. Are we recycling? Are we reusing those parts, or are we reusing those entire products? So this is also a very interesting thing, and I would say one important point of the entire modernization process with the EcoFit offers, of course, to be transparent on what we do with the replaced parts of the equipment.
Of course. And it's really important that you mentioned that the repair offer is something that the customers, they don't really get it. And we've been doing that in Schneider for a long time. But people assume it's only like maintenance or something like that, and not like as a circular offer. But they don't see that in the end of the day, we're just extending the lifetime of a product as well.
Sure.
But modernization is more intuitive, I would say.
Yeah.
Like they do this and they understand that this is an option. If you want to just change the product for a new one is one thing. If you want to just update like and modernize and somehow they are being circular, but we were not using that specific word because this is something new for the market in general, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So great. We were discussing about modernization, repair, but I understand that these are parts of the end of life of a product, right?
Yes.
So what about the beginning of the product, the concept? Is that circular somehow? What did that look like? Does it make sense to you?
Sure. Yes. Actually, the circularity, or when the moment that we have to think about circularity, is on the very beginning of the product life cycle, on the design phase. By the design for services concept, we have to include topics like circularity, serviceability. We have to include those topics when we are designing or we are thinking about creating a new product on the next year. So yes, circularity really starts. It's easier if we think about circularity on the beginning of the product life cycle than do it close to the end of the product life cycle. It's much more complex in terms of the entire life cycle management. That's the point.
If I may add, I think that there is as well a very important moment is when the customer are doing their purchasing decision-making process. By including circularity, they can unlock the future value of circularity and then extending the life of their equipment, use longer their install base, and then finally, if you are looking at it, when it's starting, it's way before the commercialization of our product, and with a good information provided to the customer for being conscious about this value of circularity. It's really as well playing a good momentum on the total cost of ownership for the customer, of course.
Sure.
So I like this purchase decision concept, because we are matching their needs with our take back, serviceability, and all our story.
Yeah, and Victor, that you mentioned that we need to think about how we design the products, right?
Yes.
So just to deep dive a little bit, what do you mean like that we need to create products that they are modular and that it will be easier to repair, to modernize? So
Yes.
there are some products, if you don't think about the circularity, it's harder to just, in the end of their life, to get like a circular decision, I would say.
Sure. Yes.
Right.
That's exactly the point.
Okay, interesting.
And Victor, what do you see the fastest wins when it comes to customers?
On top of what we just mentioned, so repair, spare parts, I see an important part about predictive maintenance. So talking about predictive maintenance is a point where the customers are going to see fast results on their plant, not just on the product, but on the plant. So extending the life of their products or getting a bigger life on the surrounding equipments, on the satellite equipments that are connected with a Schneider drive or a Schneider product. This is something that the customer is going to see very fast, the results about circular as a whole, not in the product, the product as a concept.
I'm fully aligned with Victor, and maybe I will reinforce the message about reuse and refurbish, because when we take back equipment and we are able to provide a second life, finally the customer can benefit straight away of faster lead time, lower cost, and as well reducing the environmental footprint. So this is...
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting that we have this opportunity here to discuss that, because a lot of times I see that when we are talking to customers, they think about circularity as a whole like complex topic to navigate. And right now, if I understood it right, it's about like right decisions, simple decisions on a daily basis to control your assets and your plans in general.
You already see results immediately. Yes.
That's perfect. Yeah, great. Thanks for the insights. So since we're talking about that, now another important question, I would say. Talking about investment. So when you think, Victor, about a service offer, which one, if you need to classify one, would be the offer that the customers will have better use of their investment in their equipment?
Good question. If we're thinking about protecting the investment that the customers have already made in their equipment, One important offer, I would say, it's the EcoFit Life Extension offer. Because we are extending, well, the name already says, we are extending the life of the asset. So we are not, if the customer doesn't need to replace the equipment, or if the equipment is not close to the end of the services phase or the end of life of the product. So if we already have enough time to repair, to make any services if needed in that specific product, is a way to protect the investment that the customer already made.
Yes, and I think as well about take back for protecting the investment. I mean that if a customer are playing the game of take back to a process like Schneider, they get the chance later to benefit of spare part or full refurbished equipment for extending the life of the equipment. So they are protecting their investment, and again, to improve the total cost of ownership thanks to circularity. But of course, if you want to have circular product, at one point you need as well to put the product that you have in the best circular loop.
Sure.
You're right, Ludovic. I like this concept of long-term value proposal with circularity, So by starting with our customers embracing take back and then protecting longer with refurbished products. Yeah, that's a very nice idea, right? Thinking about our classical life cycle of an asset, do you think by circularity we are changing a little bit what our customers think it's the end of life of a product?
Yes, I like very much this question because if you think about it, there is no end of life. It's end of use of our product. And then if you think about end of use, you are thinking to put this product in the best circular loop versus to put this product at the bin at the back of the plant. And then if you look at it, through take back, refurbished capabilities, and so on and so forth, you are creating additional value. So it could be spare part, it could be full refurbished product, and worst case, raw material for reproducing a new product.
Yeah. If we can align with this end of life concept with what traditionally have under the life cycle management of a product is, so we have the typical end of sales, we have the 8 years of services in a product, minimum 8 years of services in a product, and we end with finally decommission the product. So this for us is very, I would say, straightforward. So it's clear when we start to sell, when we finish to sell, when this is clear for us. But for the customer, it can be at any moment during this, this period. So the customer can think about, like he said, end of use. So for me, this product doesn't fit anymore because I want to modernize my plant, or a product, for example, is not it's not compliant anymore with cybersecurity, new regulations that we have. So I need to modernize. So this can happen during any time of our typical life cycle parts of age of our product.
Actually, that's really interesting the way you frame it, that we have like end of use, end of life, and even end of sales, because these are different concepts that we don't really think about it. And for example, if you have a product that we have the end of sales, I would say, we still have years of serviceability in Schneider that we still have value added for the customer, for ourselves as well. And even on the strategy on who are we talking to, if you're talking to a customer, as you said, in his mind, we have end of use, which is this doesn't fit my needs anymore. But for us, we have value. Okay, we can have this product, we can dismantle it, we can have this spare parts, we can refurbish it and give another value, another life. Sure. So that's really interesting, like these key concepts and how it changes from who are we talking to on a daily basis, right? So Victor, which offer do you think would open doors for deeper conversations with the customers? And thinking specifically of business models, like what brings the conversation from a transactional support into a relationship with the customer, I would say?
Good question. I think the door opener for this type of conversation that would bring, I would say, attention of the customer is the long-term maintenance type of contracts. Okay, so this is the thing that customers, they are demanding a lot right now. So maintenance contracts, this is something that, brights the eyes of the customer. One important thing is that if we can connect these maintenance contracts with the end of the life, since we are talking about this topic, of the product. So by modernizing the products, by replacing the product on the end of the line. So this is something very, very important that will bring us from the typical transactional approach, offer by offer, to a full services provider. So going to a more dedicated, acting as a partner with the customer. So that's an interesting point. Of course, in the middle of the process, if we can include, for example, fast access to our customer support, or fast access to spare parts, to circular parts, refurbished parts. So this is also going to give to the customer a better services experience than rather just a regular service provider, so a local service provider. So this is something very important. So that's the point. So opening the discussion with maintenance contract, I think it's the best way to go.
Yes, fully aligned with Victor. And so we see that there is maybe one moment that is clear, very upfront before when you are installing your product or your install base. This is a good moment to have a deep conversation to anticipate as much as we can. But I think as well that we are keeping developing our circular capability. So I think that there is another moment where it's very interesting to speak together with our customer, is when we are at the time of modernization, maybe, or part of modernization. This is where it works to talk, because we can bring potentially new solution that we haven't got in the past, because we have developed new capability. And then with our customer, we can rethink the strategy of modernization associated with maintenance, as Victor said. So I think it's very, very important to keep this discussion going on along the path, along the years, because a lot of things are evolving.
I like this concept of VIP access to circular spares. I never heard about that. So I think we are a little bit changing the game and making our customers think on us about being more a life cycle partner than really a service provider, right?
Sure.
And Victor, which offers do you think impact more on on reducing the operational risk and cost of our customers?
I would say the clear example is all the predictive maintenance offers. Okay, so here we can save a lot of costs from the operational process of the customer if we have the ability to analyze in real time the data that is coming from our equipment. So if we are able to predict for the customer when the equipment is going to fail, what is the real-time condition of that asset. So here's a real time changer to plan all the maintenance tasks of the customer. Of course, another alternative for to send the data to the cloud, we can do the same analytics on the product itself. So that there is a possibility for that. We have the same analytics, we have the same analysis to provide the customer with this information without the need to send the information outside the customer plant. So this is an important, I would say, it's a game changer in terms of efficiency and operational cost for our products.
Yeah, Victor, I think like data in the end of the day is a really powerful tool that we have in any areas of knowledge in general. And it's really interesting that once we have this data, we can plan our resources. And when we plan our resources, we are being like sustainable at the end of the day, right? And another thing that is really interesting is that we have the flexibility to just do it in like locally with the customers or on the cloud. So because there are some customers that they have already their own like structure and their plans. So that really creates a lot of flexibility.
And also we have some local regulations that don't allow
that's really interesting.
To upload the data outside
Yeah,
the country.
cybersecurity and other assets. How do we manage, how do we read this data, and how do we share with the customers and like Schneider, how do we exchange this data? Sure. Interesting, that's a good point.
Okay, great. I think we reached the end of the chapter. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Ludovic. It has been a pleasure to have you here. I think it has been a great discussion.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to talk about circularity. This is a very important topic for us.
So yes, thank you very much for the invitation. It was a real pleasure to be with you today.
And thank you, everyone, and thank you for being part of the discussion. And please keep an eye that we'll have more episodes to come about circularity. Have a nice day.